Victor Dare joins me on the line right now. So much to talk about, Victor. We got record highs in the stock market. You watch that U.S. dollar continue on that path that you set out for us in the first week of September. News full today of Catalonia. My goodness gracious. But I got to figure that at least some of that money coming out of Europe is coming out of Europe to at least push the U.S. dollar, push the stock market higher.
I think there's certainly something like that happening, Mike. I mean, we had that rally in the U.S. dollar that began back on September the 8th. I keep calling that a key turn date. A whole lot of markets turned on a dime back on September 8th. But the rally in the dollar accelerated this week. I have been short other currencies. In other words, I've been long the U.S. dollar by being short other currencies since early September. I took a lot of profits this week, and actually on my short Canadian dollar, I am out of it entirely at Friday. And that's just trading. I think the U.S. dollar goes higher from here. I think that's the likelihood. But, I go with the ebb and flow of the market. One of the things, certainly, that's been driving the U.S. dollar is that traders are positioning for the Federal Reserve to be more hawkish. In other words, for the Federal Reserve to push up interest rates. We call that diverging monetary policy when the Fed's tightening and other banks aren't, or like in the case of Bank of Canada, seem to be backing away from the market's expectation that they were going to continue to tighten. That makes the U.S. dollar rally against those other currencies. And speaking of the Fed, you're going to hear, I think, this week ahead that President Trump is going to appoint somebody different to the head of the Federal Reserve, and certainly the front runner right now is the current Fed Governor Powell. There may be a surprise here. The vice chairman seat is also open. Fed might do a 2-4 and give you a Powell and Taylor as chairman and vice chairman. But that's going to be key. Who's running the Fed? Because the Fed's been so important to the markets.
Yeah, big-time stuff in that. It's, as I said, we also got record highs in the stock market, too. Obviously capital's flowing into the U.S. market, but throwing into NASDAQ, throwing around the world. I mean, the Canadian dollar finally made it, the TSX finally made a new high.
Well, for sure. The stock market has been on a tear. It seems like any dip is a buying opportunity. And I will tell you this. The Investor Intelligence Survey out at the end of the week says that the spread between the percentage of people who are bullish and the people who are bearish, and there's very few people bearish, but the spread is the widest it's been in 30 years. You got to go back to just before the crash in 1987 when there was that many more bulls than there are bears on the stock market. I don't have a position in the stock market. I could have.
Okay, enough said.
But I'm not there.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff as always, Victor. But as I say, I'll remind people that on September 8th weekend, Victor Adair was telling us, look for a turn in all these markets. We've certainly seen exactly that as the Canadian dollar, has fallen since that point of view, but so many others against the strength of the U.S. dollar.